You know what that means?
Monday Night Fantasy Talk.
Let's get buzzed on the buzz.
The really, really sad thing, guys, is that last weekend would have been preseason, the first weekend of preseason football. I mean, after the Hall of Fame game, we would have been getting excited into this. I mean,
Yeah.
God, before we jump in, Commish, Cyclops 2020, we're here on a Monday night to talk to you all about what's going on in the world of fantasy football with the Fantasy Football Buzz podcast. Brad, Keith, how are you guys tonight?
Doing awesome. Feeling good. I know every day that goes by, we keep talking about, is there going to be football? Isn't there? We're going along as there is.
Yeah, and you know, we talked about, I feel like we almost have to give a Seth update on where I stand with my
That's right.
You know, how do I feel that whether or not we're going to have football this season? And I was at 50, then at 45, and then last week I said 40. I'm at 30 now. Especially
You're going down?
Yes, because after what happened in college football, we've got major conferences pulling out Michigan, Ohio State. I know there's a big difference between NCAA and NFL. NFL needs the money. They're going to follow the money. I get that. But my confidence level is dropping, and I don't want it to happen. Trust me. But my confidence level is dropping.
Look, no guy likes to pull out. But we got to remember, this is the NFL, not college.
Right. I understand. I get it.
This is the NFL. It's about they're working. We're working.
Are you saying we need to put a condom on the NFL somehow?
It's called a bubble. It's called a bubble.
They should have. And I thought about this. Now, I understand it's not the NBA. I understand that you can't really house everybody together the way they did in the NBA because there's so few players on an NBA team versus the 53 in the NFL team. However, they could have areas where they can stay quarantined and play within a specific region, but that's not going to happen. You know, it's not going to happen.
You've heard.
Well, the issue is you're still dealing with kids, and that's the biggest problem. I mean, it's almost like they have a responsibility.
I'm with you on college.
Right? No. I'm talking about the NFL. The average age of the NFL player is like, what, 23, 24, 25? Technically, that's an adult. But these guys, they're young, and they're completely resilient.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying.
And their headspace, much like what happened in Major League Baseball, you know, that resilience they're not taking the necessary precautions. They certainly haven't. Some of the teams in baseball, and you wonder how precautious they would be in the NFL as well. I mean, there has to be some strict mandates.
Have you heard the ideas that are being floated around doing a divisional bubble?
No, but
have you heard?
Good.
So I heard this the other day. I was on with someone, and they were talking about it, and I really haven't heard it. It hasn't been publicized, but they heard it, so they were telling me. I don't have any kind of clarification on this, or it's not breaking news, but they were talking about doing divisional bubbles, as far as each division would go to an area, be kind of quarantined in that area, and you play your other teams for a certain amount of weeks, like twice each, and then you would go to another, like they would interact bubbles somehow, and you would go play a different division, and it would be like a 12-game season.
Yeah, I'm sure there's things about that. I think it's money that can be lost by the home teams if they're not played in their stadium. I mean, I'm just saying we got to follow the money, see what's going to happen with that. But listen, we want to talk about how this whole thing affects the NFL. But before we do, I just want to remind everybody who's watching, listening in, give us a call. Let us know how you feel. What is your confidence level that we're going to have football this season? Is it as low as mine at 35 or as high as Cyclops at
right 70? Now, like 60. I'm going to 60 right now.
60. Okay.
And I think I'm right in the middle at about 50.
All right. All you have to do is pick up the phone call, 772.
That's not the middle.
Buzz. If you're shy, you don't want to call. If you're watching on Facebook Live or you're watching on YouTube Live, go ahead and make comments. Those comments will come to us. We'll address those comments throughout the show. Love to hear from you. Love to see your comments. Let's get started. Let's talk about how has COVID, and this was one of the burning questions that we posed, what team will COVID affect the most? Or has COVID affected the most?
I don't know about has yet. There's been certain, there's been a sprinkling of players, but this is a conjecture question that you can use based on demographics, saturation, and what have you. And to me, it would be the obvious would be the Jets and the Giants, not just because of what New York endured with their first outbreak, and they were the first city to just erupt with COVID cases. Just the sheer amount of people, the close quarters, and the players being in those environments. If there's anything that can lead to any kind of conjecture, it would be Metropolis, and it would be the biggest metropolis of them all.
The thing with the NFL is there's a lot of everyone, not everyone, but most of the teams are in a metropolis.
Right.
But with regard to the teams themselves, we understand the opt-out period is over now. We know that no starting quarterbacks opted out. That would have really sent some type of shockwave through the NFL had that happened. There's only a handful of big players that opted out. And there were 3 teams that actually had nobody opt out at all. So the most obvious and the one team that had the most amount of players opt out, which is 8, are the New England Patriots, right? So now out of that 8, 3 of them are starters.
That's correct.
3 of them are starters. Hightower, Patrick Chung, right? Marcus Cannon, Brandon Bolden, Danny Vitale, Najee Torin, Marquise Lee, and Matt LaCosse. Now, that's going to definitely affect them. It's bad enough Brady left already. But losing big pieces of that defense, that's going to affect them tremendously.
Oh, I see what you're saying. With the question being, how is COVID overall in general going to impact the teams, not just who has the most apt chance of getting that kind of spread on their team?
Well, no, I don't mind saying both.
Either way,
you're right with what you said. But yeah, I was also talking about teams. There aren't. My point being though, is that I don't think it has affected the teams very much. Brad, I don't know if you heard anything. I know that Juwan James out of Denver, former Miami Dolphin, he opted out. And you might not think that's a big deal. Juwan James wasn't that great, but the problem is the Broncos now have to bring in a backup. Guy's name is Wilkinson. And when there were other players that were hurt and he came in, he was terrible. Now, it may not be as bad as Jesse Davis, the human turnstile, but they're going to have to completely change up their offensive line. And that's going to really, it could spell trouble for Drew Lock in Denver.
I think that the players that have opted out on the offensive lines, the guy from Kansas City, I'm going blank on his name at the exact moment, but I think the offensive lines will affect teams more. I mean, New England's like they had 8 players opt out. That's almost 3 times, at least 2 times more than any other team.
And they lost 8 players to the Dolphins in free agency.
Yeah, and they just signed a Dolphin, so but as far as every other team, I think it's the offensive lines, because especially with no preseason, especially with essentially an all-star offensive lineman. So that's where I think a team will get hurt the most. As far as areas, as 2020 was talking about, I mean, you could really talk about any city. Miami, which is a hot spot right now. Arizona, like you say, New York. There's 2 teams there, so that's double trouble. Essentially. But yeah, it's that certainly could be a problem. But I just want to point out, Seth, Commish, your son, put up there a 75%. Now we know he is much smarter than you, so I'm gonna go with him and his odds rather than yours.
Hey, I really hope he's right. If there's one of the many things Jonah has taught me, it is to be optimistic. So
right, he's much smarter, and he's not cynical.
Yes,
right.
No, I think that's great. we're talking about, you were talking about the offensive lines, and I agree, but there is going to be some defensive problems with Chicago, who has had one of the best defenses year over year. They've lost now Eddie Goldman, and you might not think that's a big deal, but you're talking about their main defensive tackle who's been plugging up the middle. He's played over close to 500 snaps over 15 games in 2019. I mean, that's a serious loss.
It's a big hole.
Yeah. It has allowed Khalil Mack and Robert Quinn to be able to, rush the quarterback. Who knows if they're going to have that same effectiveness? And in the same vein, in Jacksonville, Al Woods, their starting defensive tackle, has decided to opt out for the season. And right now, they don't even have anybody good to replace him. And they're searching the free agency wire looking for somebody. Other than that, I don't see a lot of issues or teams being affected.
There's plenty of people they can go pick up at the beach in Florida.
Yeah, there you go.
It's going to be a much different conversation when we have this conversation now that training camps are coming together and once the games start. I mean, right now we're predicting lottery numbers. But again, we're going with what we have. We're going with what we're seeing so far. It's just going to be so amazing how different this is going to look in the next 4 to 6 weeks.
Yeah. All right. So a little later on, we're gonna one of the other burning questions we have that we're going to address is, do you like Patrick Mahomes or do you like Jackson? Which of those two quarterbacks would you want to take? But before we get to that, and we're going to talk about rookie running backs first, I figured I'm going to do a trivia question tonight that has something to do with Patrick Mahomes. So this is our impossible trivia question. If you think you know the answer, give us a call, 772-800-BUZZ, or go ahead and comment on Facebook Live or YouTube Live, and we'll get you on. But here's the question. All right, and it's surprising. Okay, one day before his 20th birthday, which was September 16, 2018 against the Steelers, Patrick Mahomes became the youngest player to toss 6 touchdowns in a game. Whose record did he beat?
As the youngest player?
We all have heard of. What player? He beat his own record, to be honest with you, but I mean, who had it other than Patrick Mahomes? Right, other than Patrick Mahomes, who had the record before Patrick Mahomes as far as being the youngest player to throw at least 6 touchdown passes in a game? It's somebody we've all heard of. It's somebody who's playing in the NFL right now. So those are your clues. Go ahead, give us a call, comment. I think we already even have one comment. Peyton Manning is not the answer. So that is the one comment right now, but Peyton Manning is not the answer. We'll get back to Patrick Mahomes. But before we do, we saw that there are a lot of rookies that were taken in the draft. The rookies were the class of the draft. Everyone's talking about the rookie running backs. Will they matter this year?
Oh, absolutely. It was an incredible crop. Bunch of SEC running backs, and some one of the things that stands out about a few of them is how incredible they were after contact. I don't think there's any question, at least for me, that Hilaire definitely is leading the pack in this. Damian Williams is not going to be playing. Reed loves to feature a back. This guy, I think, was the best in the SEC at yards after contact, not just from rushing, but after catching the ball as well. So this guy I'm starting to really see the light on him and how prominent he could be. So I think there's no question. Of this pack, this guy's number one for me for sure.
All right. It's hard to disagree with Hilaire as he's going to be the bust out because of, what's going on there. I get it. I'm going to switch tunes a little bit here. I'm going to go, and I thought about this, and Hilaire's the easy one, right? I'm going with Swift. Swift, by the end of the year, whenever that year ends, if it's a full year, will be the number one rookie running back this year.
I'm going to tell you why you're wrong a little later, and you can write it down. But, I've put a lot of thought into this as well with regard to Edwards-Hilaire. And I do have him as my RB7 right now. I have him going in the first round or early in the second round. One of the main reasons is in the 29 games that Mahomes has started, running backs in those games have scored 39 touchdowns, which is about 1.35 touchdowns per game. And if we think that Edwards-Helaire is going to get half of that touchdown volume, that's still 11 touchdowns in 16 games, which would have put him in 7th place among running backs with touchdowns last year.
Yeah.
And if you remember in 2018, when Kareem Hunt was their bell cow, he was an RB8 in a PP at the end of the year in PPR, right? The caveat, here's my caveat, guys, because I'm excited about it. But Kansas City last year was 23rd in rushing. And that was, of course, McCoy and with Williams and was third, but they were 13th in rushing in touchdowns. They love giving the ball in the red zone to the running backs. But it's scary to think that they were at the bottom third in the NFL in rushing. And is that a product of their running backs? Is that a product of the system, of the line? And
well, I think that definitely you had so many issues. Nobody can stay healthy. McCoy couldn't stay healthy. Damian Williams couldn't stay healthy. They had to rely a bit on their rookie, Darwin Thompson. Is that right?
Yep.
And you got McCoy's gone. Williams is gone. You still have Thompson there to go with Helaire. I mean, this guy has a chance to grab bell cow duties. A lot's going to come down to how he handles pass blocking, because that's a big deal in a huge deal in an Andy Reid offense.
With not a lot of practice and no preseason.
Exactly. And that's, to me, the only thing that was very speculative about him. But the bottom line is, Seth, Commish, it's opportunity. And he's going to get it. He's going to get handed the rock. And he was a stud in the SEC. He was a stud in college football. And there's no reason that I can see why his skill set would not translate to the NFL.
Well,
I can't disagree with this. And if I'm sitting in the 7, 8, 9 spot and he's there, it's going to be hard not to take him. I just think, and I'll make my case for it, and it could be completely wrong, but Kerryon Johnson has not really been able to stay healthy. He hasn't shown enough. And if Swift can come in there, and I think you're going to see a lot of screens this year from Stafford. I think their line is, hang on half a second. Their line is, they don't actually have a very good offensive line.
No, they don't.
That could be a problem.
I think that might have been Seth's comment later on.
Okay, I was looking up at Jonathan Taylor in Indy, and they have the number 1 rated offensive line at the moment. Right, which could be there, but they have Mack there, and I think it'll be a split backfield, and they have Hines, right? So I don't know that he's going to get as many opportunities. I just think Swift is going to come out, and he will end up being the starting running back there. And I mean, look, I could be wrong.
The Lions, you are wrong. The Lions are. I'm sorry, but. We saw last year, everyone thought going into the draft, Kerryon Johnson, be the guy who was going to take all the carries, 3.6 yards per carry. And that's not great for someone who only gets about 10 to 20 carries a game, right? And as much as there's upside with Swift, to me, the upside with Swift is in a PPR league when he comes in on third down. Because even if they start Kerryon, they're going to be bringing Swift in, right? But the point is with Kerryon last year, even when he was healthy, they didn't necessarily start him. They brought in the other Johnson,
right?
Many times
they were.
It was a complete running back by committee. I don't see it changing because of the fact that they haven't had practice. They're not going to have preseason. We talked about upside with Swift with PPR, right? Because he's going to come in up there down. He's going to grab, but the upside on Edwards-Helaire, being the guy who is the guy, there's no question right now that he's going to get the majority of the carry. The upside on him is more upside than someone like Mixon, like Jones, Sanders, Jacobs, Chubb. I think Helaire has more upside than all of those guys right now. Those other guys are good, and they're going to go in the first, second, third round. But to me, they don't have the upside. DeAndre Swift, he's going to be a nice third down back, at least for the first half of the season. You're going to need a little more from Swift.
And I can't agree more. I think a running back's fantasy production is 50% talent, 50% system. I mean, it is literally that split. I'll give you Priest Holmes at Baltimore, Priest Holmes at Kansas City. And there's a lot of stories that go very similar. So, and I think DeAndre Swift is an incredible talent. Here's a good trivia question. Who and when was the last 1,000-yard rusher in Detroit? It very well could have been Barry Sanders. So do you have the answer, or are you just throwing out the question?
No, I don't have that answer, by the way. I'd love to get that answer. It's a great question. Will tell us. I mean, one of our viewers looked that up. It might have been Abdullah. I don't know.
I don't think so. I think it's a long time since they've had a 1,000-yard rusher. They're going to catch a lot of balls, and I agree. Swift is an unbelievable talent, but Kerryon Johnson's not going anywhere. And right. as Commish said, Edwards-Helaire, he's got every opportunity to just be an absolute stud, top 10 running back.
Well, we're going to see how this plays out, hopefully, and we'll keep an eye on it. That's all we can do, right? It's there are some other running backs that we haven't talked about yet. Mm-hmm. That there's Vaughn in Tampa Bay, right?
He's done for the season. He opted out.
Yeah. Oh, did he?
Yep. I believe so.
So if you guys don't mind, I love the idea of taking a look at the rookie running backs and going in this order. I think we can all equivocally agree. Edwards-Helaire, he's number one. Probably Swift, I would say, is number two. No, but you guys have three of this crop. You got Taylor.
Taylor is my clear number two. To me, he's a fourth-round pick. He's the 22nd running back off my board. I'm not even suggesting that people draft DeAndre Swift, at least right now. Jonathan Taylor, they've already had talks about the fact that he's going to take over for Mac from day one. Now, we don't know without training camp, without preseason, whether or not that's going to happen. But I think it's a good possibility. We talked about this the other night, that Taylor's going to get close to 250 carries. And if he does that, it's a no-brainer, especially with the talent that he's got.
Everything I'm reading is that it's going to be an even 50-50 split there.
I think it would be Taylor off the field if he can perform the way he performed in Wisconsin. Let's put it that way.
What do you think about Akers?
I have him next. I have him next.
Okay.
Eighth round. Yeah. Only because we're talking about a 4-member running back by committee in LA, and without preseason, we have no idea what they're going to do.
Yeah, I certainly agree with that. And it's like Helaire, Taylor, Swift, Akers, and then there's other guys. And one of the guys that they're talking about now is once Geis was released, is Gibson. He might.
No, go ahead.
No, I understand Peterson's there, and they have other running backs there, but they like him, and the coach Rivera seems to like him, and he says he's a CMC type back, and this is how they're promoting him, and that could just be a little bit of fluff. But go ahead. But
when you have a Hall of Famer like Adrian Peterson, and I understand he's at the end of his career. No, I know he's old, but he's also been performing. And for anybody that's had him on their fantasy team will see that he has been performing. I'm not suggesting you go out and draft him. I don't even know if Adrian Peterson is draftable at this point, unless they come out tomorrow and say that he's going to start. Right. But to me, Bryce Love is an even better running back than Gibson.
All right. And he seems to be next in line. I understand that. So, we'll see. But it's someone that you got to keep an eye on these guys and see about streaming them or putting them at the end of a roster and seeing what happens. Peterson could be, as every running back could be, but he could be a carry away from being done, with his knees and everything else.
Right. And we get that. Also, we talked about J.K. Dobbins a few weeks ago. I don't know how you all feel about it. To me, again, here's another situation where you're going into a running back by committee, especially when your quarterback himself is a running back by committee. There's not enough balls to go around in Baltimore, as far as I'm concerned. Dobbins.
That's what 2020 says.
Dobbins is a very good running back, and I think if he went to Kansas City or he went to the Colts, it might be different. But being in both,
it's infuriating because he is so good, and from an NFL perspective, he's definitely going to contribute. But he's draftable, late in a draft because he's sitting in a murky situation, like you said. And I really wish the Dolphins would have drafted this guy. But it's so frustrating to watch a talent like that. You don't really get to take advantage of his fantasy prowess as early as you'd like to, because the guy is a beast.
Yeah, that's true. Now, before we go on to our next topic, we're going to talk about whether or not Patrick Mahomes or Lamar Jackson, which of those two would you draft? I had put out a quiz, a trivia question about Patrick Mahomes because he became the youngest player to ever toss 6 touchdown passes in a game. And I'm asking, whose record did he beat? Peyton Manning and Nick Foles were some of the answers. The answer is no, it's not either one of those. It is somebody who is playing in the NFL today. So give us.
All right,
go ahead.
Yeah. No, I have a guess at it, but I'll let people send
Give
in
us
a guess.
a call 772-800-BUZZ or 2899 or a comment in Facebook Live or on YouTube Live. Let us know what your answer. And also, let us know what you think about the rookie running backs. Do you think we're way off? Do you think Cyclops is way off by thinking that DeAndre Swift, and he put it in pen, I think, on his paper, is going to be the running back out of the rookie class who's going to have the most fantasy points this coming year? We all know that that's wrong, but hey, you know what? If you don't put it out there, you don't have a chance. So.
You can't be right. That's right. If you don't put it out there, you can't be right.
Let us know what you think. All right, so let's go on to some of this. This is like red meat to wolves when we talk about Patrick Mahomes or Lamar Jackson. We know what Lamar Jackson did last year. We know what Mahomes has done the past few years. We talked about how Mahomes was going to regress last year after an incredible 2018. But you know what? He was still very good when he was healthy, of course. What do you guys think? Do you both think that Mahomes, forget where you take him, we'll get to that, but do you think Mahomes should be taken before Lamar Jackson?
Go ahead.
It's so tough. It really is. Last year, it would have been so nice to have a healthy Mahomes to really gauge that. For me, I'm still going Mahomes because what I've seen is they both ironically really flourished in their sophomore year because that's when they were really handed the rock to start from day one. And that's when you saw what they both can do. But Mahomes did that now for 2 years straight, barring injury. If you ask me, the sophomore slump that could possibly happen, I don't see it happening because, if you look, amazingly, their completion percentages were not far off. Lamar actually threw for more touchdowns. Again, he had more playing time, and his rushing yards are indisputably amazing. But if I'm gun to head, had to pick between one of these two, the design of the offense, I believe the talent, what they can do, I'm taking Mahomes. To me, he's just going to. I feel more consistent, more comfortable in his skill set that it's repeatable.
Okay, so let me ask you. So this is a little bit of a trivia question. All right. Who is the last quarterback to follow up a point lead for one season and then do it again the next season? Okay.
Aaron Rodgers? I have no idea.
It was not. It's back in 2004. Okay. So history is not on Jackson's side to repeat. They say it's unsustainable. Mm-hmm. He had a 9% TD ratio last year. Okay, which is amazing. But history says that he just can't keep that up. Now, you take that a little bit of away, right? Is he still the number one quarterback? Very possibly. Yeah. But like 2020 was saying, and I think we all, a lot of people agree, Mahomes is steady. He's got Hill, he's got Watkins, he's got Hardman. He's gonna have
Kelsey.
Kelsey. I mean, he has the weapons. He's shown that he's consistent every single game to be getting the points. So do you want the consistency or, someone who could turn into that a little bit of a slump? Maybe defenses catch up with them. There's a lot of questions.
Okay. I think the question that you ask yourself, if you're sitting there wherever it is that you want to draft one of these two players, the question you need to ask yourself is simple. Will Lamar Jackson carry the ball again 200 times and get 1,300 yards rushing? If the answer is yes, then grab him. If the answer is I don't know or no, you don't grab him, because that's where his points came from, guys. It was 200 carries, 1,300 yards, 7 touchdowns, I believe. And you know what? Regression is right around the corner. We talk about upside. Now we're talking regression. Let me tell you something. If Lamar Jackson does that again, then the gods are shining on this guy. But, bringing in J.K. Dobbins, they're going to be, even probably spreading the ball out more. I doubt, even if he stays healthy, I doubt he will get those many runs. Whereas you're looking at a guy like Mahomes that is so consistent, of course, when he's healthy, it's ridiculous.
Right. And only rushed for like 200 yards last year. I'm going to throw out to further proliferate your sentiment, RG3 and Michael Vick. Both of them had, in different years, of course, 2 iconic seasons. It was RG3's, I believe it was his freshman year, put up incredible numbers on the ground, incredible throwing numbers. Vic did the same thing. This was when he was I'm talking about when he was in Philly, incredible numbers. And the next year, their bodies completely broke down. And it was a similar game to Lamar Jackson, prolific passing, incredible running. And the next year, they just couldn't do it. And they both had a lot of talent, certainly at the time. So I agree with you. It's a lot to ask for a quarterback to put up those kind of numbers consistently. The body just gets broken down with that kind of usage. And that's not Mahomes' game.
Now, if you are bent on getting one of these two players, and let's say you ended up grabbing Michael Thomas in the first round, came back in the second round, and there was Julio Jones just sitting there, and you're like, man, I know I need a running back, but how can I pass on Julio? Now you're sitting there with Michael Thomas and Julio coming in the third round. You can get Lamar, you can get the running, and you can get the quarterback, because then you get a little of both. That's to me, the only reason I would take Lamar before Mahomes, but I doubt that would happen. So the question to you guys is this. Do you think you would draft either one of those? And if so, where?
The scenario that you just pointed out, where I could have Michael Thomas, Julio Jones, and get Lamar in the third, it's a little scary with not having any running backs yet, but that team is a little scary. Depending upon the balance I have in the third round, if Lamar Jackson or Pat Mahomes is there in the third round, again, depending what my previous 2 picks look like, I might be inclined to grab one of them because they are game changers. It's them and then everyone else after that. So I might be inclined, yes, in the third round to grab one.
What about you, Brad?
I mean, I think both of those guys are mid to late second round, early third round. And some, people are going to jump up and get them. They just put up too good of numbers to not take that chance. I mean, if one of those two guys is there, and I'm always a waiter on a quarterback. I always wait, and you sometimes have to stream a little bit, but I always wait. Last year people were getting their backups before I got my first quarterback. But those two guys I would be excited to have on my team this coming year.
Well, look, this is the way I look at it, right? I would love to have them if they fell to the fifth round. They're not falling to the fifth round. But when you're talking about second or third round on a quarterback, no one's going to fault you if you take Jackson or Mahomes. That's not the problem. The problem is, or the benefit is in having Jackson Mahomes. In order to win your fantasy football league, you need to find the next Jackson or Mahomes, not grab Jackson or Mahomes. You need to understand who else is out there that you're not going to be wasting a third-round pick or a second-round pick on. You don't need to have the elite quarterback. You can grab guys late, Jared Goff, Baker Mayfield, Phillip Rivers, guys that had great receivers, or good receivers, I should say, good lines that will be able to produce points for you, and then grab somebody else like Drew Lock that you can take a flyer on, who might end up being the next Mahomes or being the next Jackson. I just think that there's too little talent at the top.
I agree. If I remember correctly, 2020, in our league, you took Mahomes last year early. Is that correct?
I think I had him in the third round.
Second
or
I think
third.
It was the second round.
It might have been the second.
And you were super excited to get him. And if you get a guy that's going to put up I think he was putting up seemed like 40 points a game.
It was ridiculous.
I mean, it was just week after week after week. And you know that you're going to get that consistency out of him. It's not such a bad thing. I agree. Do you wait and get a guy who's going to get 25 to 30 points a game 7 rounds later? Yeah, it's a great strategy as well, right? Because you're going to pick up more value in other positions. So it's just kind of how you want to develop your team. It's the reality is it's a crapshoot to a certain extent. I mean, those guys should produce, but you don't always know.
Look, when you're looking at a team quarterback scenario, which is what we do in our league, which I recommend. If you take and don't fault me for saying this, but if you take Lamar Jackson out of the picture, only because to me that rushing was an anomaly. The next best team quarterback, were the Saints with Drew Brees.
Right.
He ended up getting 434 points for the season
as a team quarterback, right?
With Jameis Winston at 412 points, right? Then Mahomes, who was hurt at 387. But Matt Ryan was at 372. Russell Wilson was at 359. I mean, you're talking about, other than the Lamar Jackson, you're not talking about a big spread between the top guys and people like Russell Wilson, Matt Ryan, even Ryan Tannehill guys. Even Daniel Jones, 326 points. So I'm just saying, the next Mahomes and Jackson, they're going to be out there. And the smart team, the team that's going to win the championship, is going to find out who they are.
Thank you.
Let us know what you think. 772-800-2899, or go ahead and comment. Facebook Live, YouTube Live. Any final words on Mahomes or Jackson before we move on?
I'm gonna give the answer to the question that I put out just a few minutes ago, as far as the last quarterback to. Yeah. Okay, so he ended up being a Dolphin, so it's an easy giveaway. And he played for Minnesota. All right, so Dante Culpepper did it 2 years in a row, and that's back in 2004. So that'll tell you it's not very common, and it's hard for quarterbacks to follow up. And he had that would have been when he had Randy Moss.
You confused me for a second because I thought you were talking about the question about Detroit's running back, and I'm like, Dante Culpepper.
Oh,
and now we're back to the quarterback we repeated, and now
we're talking about
I got you. We still don't have an answer to the Lions question. Who was the last Lion running back to get over 1,000 yards? What I want to do is I want to go ahead and give the answer to the impossible trivia question, because we're going to finish up with our lightning round in a second. But you all will be surprised and shocked to know. Well, here's the question one more time. Patrick Mahomes was the youngest player to toss 6 touchdown passes day before his birthday. Whose record did he beat? Believe it or not, ladies, the answer is Mitch Trubisky. He was 24 years old. He went, against Tampa Bay. He went 19 for 26, 6 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, 354 yards for 154.6 quarterback rating. Unbelievable.
Wow.
And I believe that was his rookie year, and it just went downhill from there.
Yeah.
So
I don't think he's thrown 6 touchdowns since then.
That's really funny. All right, so
I do have an answer to the Detroit Lions question, by the way.
Okay.
So I'm curious if you guys can get this. It was done in 2013.
13.
And it was also another Miami Dolphin.
Oh, wow. Terry Kirby.
I don't think Kirby ever played for the Lions. There's a name.
Mark Higgs.
I have no idea.
2013.
I like Chubb. Do you want to take another guess before I give you the answer?
I'm not sure where you're going with that.
But I love Bush.
Oh, Reggie Bush.
Oh,
Reggie Bush.
Oh, you know what? Somebody who has been trying to call, but for some reason I'm not hearing it. So, John, I apologize for that. I don't know. It's Google Voice, and it's been an experiment from day one. So I apologize for that. Give it a try one more time. If I see it, we'll get you on the show. You may, if you want, you can even participate in our lightning round. Give us a call, 772-800-2899. Hopefully, if I see it calling, I can answer it. We can talk on the phone.
You can also send, if he puts his email in the invite, you can send him a quick invite to come on live as well.
That's true. If you want to come on live onto the show, face and all, let us know. We can do that as well. Just let me know. But in the meantime, I want to go ahead and let's start the lightning round tonight. Here's the call. Hold on one second. John, is that you?
Yeah, it's me.
Hey, can you guys, Brad, Keith, you hear him okay?
Indeed, yeah.
All right, John, you are live. I know. In fact, I think the first question in the lightning round tonight, you might want to participate in. So you might want to hold on and be part of that. But what's going on today? How are you?
It's going well. I got back from the Capitol, so it's been a hell of a time today. But I actually had Trubisky on my fantasy football team 2 years ago when he got those 6 touchdowns.
On purpose?
Reserves. I think I was using someone else, and I just remember seeing those points and going, "Oh, I lost this week," because that's how reserves go sometimes. That's how it is. But I was going to say, when you're talking about your quarterback conversation, I won my fantasy football league last year, a $200 league with a lot of really competitive people, and this is why I don't believe in quarterbacks. I had Matt Ryan as my starter quarterback for the whole season, with Kirk Cousins subbing in for like the last 3 weeks. My main guys were Derrick Henry, Austin Eckler, Melvin Gordon, Saquon Barkley, and Cortland Sutton, and George Kittle, and those guys got me the championship.
Yeah, so you were consistent on the quarterback side. You didn't need to have Lamar or Mahomes.
Wait, who were your running backs? You said you had
Eckler and Henry, so he had really good running backs.
Eckler, Henry, and Barkley. Wow.
Yeah.
Nice end of the season.
Yeah, no, that's great. That worked really well, guys. In case you don't know, this is my nephew, John. This is David's son, and John actually just got his PhD. He's actually working for the state of Florida in the Capitol. So,
congrats!
Congratulations!
Thanks.
Little meat to what's going on here. Okay, we're gonna go, John. Hold on, because you're gonna help answer this. You're gonna, when prompted, we'll ask you. We do the lightning round. It's a question. We just want a 1 or 2 word answer. And then we go from there. All right. So we'll start off with Bill O'Brien or Adam Gase.
O'Brien.
Bill O'Brien. Bill O'Brien.
Sorry, I just threw up on my mouth.
I threw up on my mouth. So yeah, same.
ABG.
Oh.
Anybody but Gase.
Who's faster, Tyreek Hill or Matt Breida?
Breida.
Tyreek Hill.
Hill.
Okay, what about Jakeem Grant or Mecole Hardman?
Grant.
I don't know about that one.
Okay. Who will get hurt first, Cam Newton or Wentz?
Newton.
Wentz.
Newton's not going to have an offensive line to play for him.
He's going to fall sometimes. And he has the rest on his side now.
Okay.
Wentz is going to go down jogging out to practice.
Okay, so we kind of touched on this during the evening, but let's get a final definitive answer on this. Who's going to have more fantasy points by the end of the season? Antonio Gibson, Bryce Love, or Adrian Peterson?
Adrian Peterson is on the Redskins still, right?
Well, there is no Redskins.
No,
He's on the Washington
football team.
Washington football team. I'm sorry.
PC.
That's a tough one. Peterson, I don't. It's always a toss up because he'll have like one game where he does really well and then he sucks for the rest of the season. You know?
Yeah,
that's true. I'm gonna go with Gibson.
Okay.
And I'm going AD. I just think he's gonna get the rock.
All right. So these are yes or no questions. Hall of Famer,
Mm-hmm.
Aaron Rodgers.
Yes.
Yes.
Julio Jones.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Andre Hopkins.
Not yet.
Maybe.
Not yet. Arizona Cardinals are going to screw him.
Julian Edelman.
Show me the money.
No.
Edelman. Yes. Yes.
Phillip Rivers.
Isn't Edelman a Super Bowl MVP?
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, what was the last one?
Phillip Rivers.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Matt Ryan.
No.
Very interesting. Okay. Mila Kunis or Charlize Theron?
Can I say both?
No.
I would say both, but Charlie's, yeah.
All right. Well, that's the lightning round. I have one more announcement to make. And for anybody that's out there listening, so the name of my team in one of my leagues is not politically correct. I've decided to change it, and I'm looking for a new name. And I'm going to let the viewers decide what my team name is. So between now and our draft, I will take the one that ends up. What I'm going to do is write down the ones that have been suggested, and whichever ones get the most votes, as bad or as good as it is, I promise I will take that name because I need to get rid of the one that I have now.
Which is?
Dixie Normus, which actually came from Austin Powers, but it's got a Dixie theme, and I am not going to use it anymore. So with that, I will be accepting nominations for a team name. So it's out there. Guys, next week.
Put in a vote. Change your name?
Of course.
Where can we nominate? Yeah, I'm curious.
Nominate either in the comments or email us. Either way, we'll get it. Next week, guys, or not next week, on Thursday, we're going to talk about 3 other burning questions. We're going to talk about what are some of the biggest draft mistakes? What do people do year over year that they just keep making the same mistake over again? Also, what player for a new team will have the most success? Which free agent pickup or draft pickup? Who will have the most success in fantasy football? And then on the other side, which star in fantasy football from last year will see a major regression this year? That's what we're going to talk about on Thursday night. Guys, any final words?
No, enjoy the rest of your week and keep the odds going up that we're going to have football in a few weeks.
I hope so.
That's it. We look forward to seeing you next week.
Thursday.
I mean, next session.
Yeah.
This week.
Fiscal week. John, thanks for calling in. I appreciate it. We appreciate you at the show. Hope you can call in again Thursday night. And anytime you want to appear live, let us know. I know you're very between you and Jonah, your knowledge of fantasy football is amazing. I'd love to have you guys on anytime. So let us know. And everyone, have a good night. Cyclops Commish 2020 Fantasy Football Buzz Podcast. Take care, everybody.
It was a pleasure.